each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk Today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
A wonderful welcome to each and everyone, as we're honored to welcome to our studio noted Caribbean economist and advise to the globe. You want to know what's going to happen? Well, this is later to go to. Miss Marla Dukharan is our guest as we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Phone lines will be open 949-8037, 949-6990. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email Talk Today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard.
And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, welcome back and thanks for joining us. And always an honor to be able to sit and reflect. But when you have the opportunity to learn and to listen, you get a perspective that may help us all to appreciate where we are. And when the new year unfolds in particular, so much better. Well, to Miss Marla Dukharan, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Sterling, and to your family and to the whole of the Cayman Islands. It's such a joy and pleasure to be here again. And, thank you for letting me in.
Yeah. I think somebody called somebody who called somebody and said, she's coming through, let her through. This time.
Just this time.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe the justification is you stay, you don't bother return. I mean, you can work remotely from here.
Well, I prefer to be on the beach.
There's a country song about life's a beach. Some beach, somewhere. You know that one?
No, that's probably before my time, Sterling.
It's probably the singing that throws it off. I think it's another Jackson song, but it's relatively new. Maybe that's what it is. Young people that tell me about it. No, I just love country. You probably more than calypso.
For sure. No, country music is not a big part of my repertoire, but I know it's a big thing here.
Yeah.
I know it's a big thing here.
Country and calypso go hand in hand,
Does it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't dance without drinking. You can't drink it without getting somber. You can't get somber without country. So it has to go together.
Interesting. Never thought of this. I have to now ponder this, Sterling. Thank you.
Yeah, the philosophical ramblings of the one Sterling. Keeps you awake at night sometimes and motivated in the day at always.
Nice.
But I say that, and thanks for the laughter and the jest. But as we are serious about life, sometimes we reflect, and January ushers in for Benny a sense of not just being pensive, but hopeful expectation. And then with all that is transpiring globally, whether it's the elections to come or elections to just pass, whether it's the potential of this or that, And in the Cayman landscape, we wonder, well, where do we fit in? We're just a speck on the map, but are we but a speck, or are we even more significant than we recognize? And more importantly, how does what happens elsewhere impact us, or how do we influence, if we can, what happens elsewhere?
Well, Sterling, I mean, I feel like in the Caribbean, we would like to think that, we have a lot of impact externally. We actually don't, except when it comes to voting at like the United Nations and so on, where very small countries in the Caribbean still have the same one vote that big countries have.
Yeah.
But of course, so much of what's happening outside affects us, right? And I'm sure you've heard the expression people say when the U.S. sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. And so many times in the Caribbean, I've seen where, the events globally do have repercussions here, of course, largely with a lag. Sometimes it takes a little while for things to affect us. But right now, we're seeing so much turmoil in the world outside around us. And, one of the things I'm going to talk about at the Chambers, which, by the way, that's why I'm here in Cayman. I am here to speak at the Chambers Economic Forum on Friday, which takes place at the Kimpton. And, one of the things I'm going to talk a lot about on Friday is, because there is so much that we can't influence out there, and there is so much happening, and it seems more and more every day there's something happening. It's really important for us now more than ever to get things right at home. The room for error, that window for error is closing fast, and it's going to close soon. We can't afford in the Caribbean to just muddle through and expect things to be okay. We're already seeing post-COVID in many countries in the Caribbean, we are reaping the sour, bitter fruits of our poor policy choices. And I'm not speaking about Cayman here. I'm speaking about the Caribbean, many Caribbean countries in general. You have a few exceptions like Cayman, like Jamaica, Dominican Republic, for example. But yeah, many of us, including my country in Trinidad and Tobago right now, we have a state of emergency. We have the highest homicide rate ever. And so the thing is, if we don't get it right now, with all of the storms brewing all around us, the effects are going to be that much worse. And so what I hope to discuss on Friday is the fact that it's so important. Why is it so important to get things right at home, and what are some of the policies we need to be putting in place now to put things in where they need to be, especially socially. I think too many times, like for example, people ask me, in Trinidad, what is going to be the growth rate in Trinidad this year? I'm like, there's blood in the streets. Why do you care what the growth rate is? I mean, people's lives are affected in the most severe way. And growth is absolutely secondary, tertiary even, to the social side of things. And I think in Cayman, from what I see, you have healthy growth. You have the economic engine is working, right? You need to focus on the social and getting the social right, because the cost of living, as we know, is a big factor, and that has made things harder for a lot of people in this country. And that's one of the biggest things we need to fix.
And obviously, I will try to garner a little insight into what you will be saying, on Friday, and with respect to not, letting the cat out of the bag, but more important, I want to maybe focus more globally what is happening and the impact. And because of your willingness to share, we can talk about some of those things. And I wrote down as part of our discussion, how do we focus on the social and the economic policy, growth, development, higher GDP, higher per capita, sounds good, but what is happening in the streets? To your point, if people are worrying about, lives and livelihood, the safety, the stability, their security, it doesn't matter if they live in a mansion with guards and guns.
Yeah.
You can't live like that, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be helicoptering everything. You want to visit your pool and then back out. So can we talk about some of those things when we come by? And looking at the cost of living, was it Bahamas just the other day? They've announced, they're going to eliminate their VAT on imported food stuff. So we've seen that change, and maybe what is happening within the wider Caribbean region. Is there an opportunity for more unification? Can we ask about BRICS and how that may impact? Some of the things that I would want to maybe speak of, and you reference the time lag, not just in implementing fiscal and monetary policies, but even an election. Say in the US, for instance, how and to what extent, if it does, affect Cayman and the wider Caribbean. Some of the things we could talk about.
For sure. Looking forward to it.
All right. There will be a test, okay? Pay attention. But we want you to call and share your thoughts. Marla Dukharan sits with us, and always a pleasure. I really appreciate this opportunity. Join us right after the break.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just the delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Protect your computers and mobile devices with security software to defend against cyber attacks through viruses, malware, and other online threats. Be aware of unsecure Wi-Fi connections when in public. If you need to access your online banking or sensitive information on your mobile devices, try disabling the Wi-Fi and switching to data from your mobile network. If you suspect a fraud attempt, please contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with Valley Med Pharmacy.
Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its customers of a planned service interruption in Georgetown on Wednesday, 15 January, between the hours of now until 3 p.m. to facilitate the repair of a main line leak. The following roads will be affected by the service interruption. They are Raven Avenue, Litigate Court, Flintstone Drive, Bedrock Circle, Rockshire Drive, and Ravenwood Court. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of its customers and the public as it repairs its water infrastructure and apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for this. And thanks very, very much to Ms. Marla Dukharan for sitting with us. And as you have, the presentation at the Chamber on Friday, we're grateful to have an opportunity to chat with you, preview that, maybe get more people interested, but more importantly, for us to access within our shows the resources we have, but also to acknowledge that we don't have to go far for people who are willing to contribute and help us to not just navigate the landscape, but sometimes shape it so that it benefits us. In saying that, I wanted to ask, there are many times when two things, we look at financial accounting and economics as all the same. I can put financial accounting as one and economics as something separate.
Mhm.
I do that.
Mhm.
But people say, well, why do you separate it?
It is very separate.
Very distinct.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right? And then maybe we can help people to understand it. But
Mhm.
the other thing we do when we're looking at money, the finance part of it, and the wealth because of money and the materialism,
Mhm.
we don't seem to understand that there's a social component that if that isn't addressed, if that isn't there, maybe lose to the quality of life, all of the money in the world, well, mama said money can't buy class, money can't buy happiness, money doesn't ensure your safety, your security, your stability, your civility, right?
Mhm.
But yet people seem to think that it can, it does. I don't know. So how do we make sure that we distinguish between the economics of something and the money, the financing, and then the social implications of doing or not doing, and the ramifications of the money but the social decay?
Yeah, that's a complex question. I mean, one of the ways I would explain this is, I'm not sure if you ever heard of something called the paradox of plenty.
I think you may have introduced that to me at one point in one of your papers, I believe.
So my country is a huge example, huge shining example of the paradox of plenty in this region, where it is demonstrated empirically in the research that countries that are rich in natural resources
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that are most likely to fail. Right?
Okay.
And that shows you the huge disconnect between having plenty, so the money that you talk about, and then having the social outcomes that are desirable.
Okay.
And the countries, when you think about Venezuela, for example, Venezuela has the largest crude oil reserves in the world.
Mhm.
And Guyana has discovered so much crude oil. I forget the number, but it's more than Trinidad ever had. I mean, Trinidad has been exporting oil and gas for over 100 years. And Guyana, just 2020 was when they started. So just 4 or 5 years ago. And they have more oil than Trinidad ever had. And this is a population of 800,000 people, roughly, which is, just about half, just a little bit more than half, Trinidad's population. So I estimate actually that Guyana, on a per capita basis, certainly it's the country with the most water on a per capita basis on Earth. But I think it's the country that has the most natural resources on Earth per capita.
Yeah.
But when you look at Guyana and the level of development or underdevelopment in Guyana, it again, the paradox of plenty strikes at you. So it is very different to have resources and the material and the social outcomes. It is not necessarily the case that because you have one, you will have the other. And I'm saying that the paradox of plenty demonstrates that actually the more you have one, meaning the natural resources, the less likely you are to have positive social outcomes. And the reason for that is because when you look at countries like Trinidad and Tobago, like Guyana, like Venezuela even, versus countries that have natural resources like Norway, like Canada, like Australia, and the difference in those countries versus countries like us, like the ones I just mentioned, the Caribbean and Nigeria, for example. What makes the difference is institutional quality. The quality of your institutions, and whether your rule of law, your judiciary, your Ministry of Finance managing the budget properly, your social welfare division managing social benefits properly. If your institutions are weak, right, the more money you have, the more resources you have, the more that money gets ferreted away and ends up in the hands of the elite.
Right. I like your diplomacy.
and then in the Caribbean, remember, most of us were actually we're still predominantly a colonized region, right? And most of us had what are known as extractive institutions. So the colonial masters came and they set up an institutional framework that provided them the basis of extracting value and taking it back to Europe.
Yeah.
So whether it was sugarcane, whether it was oil and gas in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, the institutional framework of almost all of us in the Caribbean was extractive in nature, because the colonizers didn't come here with the intention of settling the way they did in the US, for example. Now you have overseas territories like Cayman, which are clearly more settler based than the extractive colonies that like Trinidad and Tobago. And that is the institutional framework is what explains the difference between the Norways, for example, and the Nigerias and Trinidad and Tobago and Guyanas of the world.
But as I listened to you, I was thinking back, and I'm glad you referenced sort of the colonial sort of past and appreciating just from the little bit we may know about history, even some of us who may know a little bit more. You know, the explorers, they went, they conquered, they exploited, they raped and pillaged, and then they took back. But in the Cayman landscape, many would say we did have the natural resources, but for Crimble in the days of the hardwoods, until that was decimated and taken, and we keep taking and taking. Maybe that paradox of plenty in the Cayman.
And the turtles too.
And the turtles. And other people.
Poor turtle. Yeah.
But I wonder if we're looking at that and seeing that that is still unfolding. We can see the historical past as to what transpired. But maybe now, and I'm likening it to the question that has been asked for decades in the Cayman landscape, you know, for whom will we be developing, right? If the populace, if I'm hearing you correctly, isn't benefiting from what is happening, if the country hasn't invested in its infrastructure, including, you know, its education, then those resources are of no value. So it leads me back to that personal conviction that the pillars are your health and your education systems.
For sure.
All other stuff makes sense. All right, with that then, how do we, looking at that paradox in plenty, would it be wrong and offensive if I were to say and ask the question, well, if the politics and the politicians of the day aren't ethical, honorable, honest, all these things, then you could potentially have corruption and a collusion or mismanagement by default because of ineptness. Do we need to get that right in order to ensure that the benefits accrue to the country?
Well, so your question is, do you need to get the politics right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's a big part of any functioning in the functioning of the country. However, something very interesting happened last month that I want to talk about, and I will give some details and show a chart on Friday. So the Prime Minister of France, there was a vote of no confidence, and the Prime Minister of France basically got ousted and the government collapsed. And when the government collapsed, you would expect that people who hold Government of France bonds, Government of France paper, would say, no, boy, I'm going to sell this because I don't know if I'll get paid back. And people won't rush to buy this. Well, guess what happened? The market rushed to buy it.
Yeah.
And what that, I mean, there's different ways to interpret this. Some people were saying, oh, well, they think maybe the right wing will get a chance to come in and they're more confident about right wing, whatever. I'm looking at this as well as there are other examples of this. For example, when Justin Trudeau announced his resignation, the Canadian dollar strengthened. What I'm seeing is there's a lot of evidence in other countries, because we don't have that same dynamic here, where when the politicians decide to leave or they're ousted, the market exhibits more confidence.
Yeah.
And why is that? It's because they feel like the politicians in those cases didn't add value. Right. They destroyed value.
Yeah.
And the civil service, the institutions could run the country better in the absence of the politicians. Now, of course, this is not the case for every country. I certainly feel it's the case in my country. If we didn't have politicians, we'd be a lot better off. But yes, we need to get that right, because the politicians are the ones that set policy, right? They're the ones that bring bills to Parliament and debate them and pass them, and which then becomes law, which then dictates how our lives are lived. So we have to get that right. And I think one of the most important things people of Cayman can do is to make sure you're registered to vote and vote, right?
And vote from an informed perspective.
Vote from not from feelings, from facts.
Yeah.
Right? Even in my country, we are facing... Actually, this year is going to be the biggest year for elections in the Caribbean for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And last year was the biggest year for elections globally. It was a record last year. And, you know, so many times you see politicians saying things, well, I think this will be good for the economy. I think that would be good. Where are the facts? Where is the evidence? And you have to interrogate every statement they make and fact check before you decide to give it credibility.
It's interesting that you referenced that, and that was something I was hoping to chat with you, maybe, you know, outside of...
Over roti.
You want to bust a shot?
Yeah, man.
There you go. That could be arranged. Paul, call up a friend, man. Actually, Matt Seals over at Sings can... What do you want to order? Matt, if you're listening...
Curry goat, always.
All curry goat?
Curry goat,
all
curry
right.
goat.
Don't worry, man. Miss Tom will pay for it. Bring 2 curry goat. Man, the food is good. As you can see, I've enjoyed a bit too much. But we want anything to drink? Any
water, man.
Water? Okay.
You're so funny.
A little fizz of one. Well, how Jay? Let me focus on food now. Focus. But when the politicians, like in France and in Canada, stepped aside, and we see the economy and the dollar and all the things improve, or if it happens in the reverse, it tells me that that person plays a certain role, not unlike the main player on the football team or the basketball team, or the CEO of an organization where we align the success of that franchise or that company with that individual. So it tells me then that you have a deep bench in the sports analogy, but the populace, whether the civil service or the electorate, need to be so involved and committed and informed that they are willing to use the third world lyrics, agitate in a civil way to ensure that what the government of the day's policies and priorities reflect the betterment for the populace. But when you do that, and let's say it's the civil service, as the technicians, the technocrats, say or ask anything publicly, my perception, and please guide me both from the practical and the academic, is under the Westminster model, you are then seen to be potentially running afoul of establishing accepted practices. So, civil servant, be quiet, just do, don't question, and if you do, make sure it's not even within the confines of your own home. Does that hinder democracy, hinder the institutional framework and its effectiveness when we have people whose voices and opinions and efforts are being hindered, hampered in silence?
Well, I don't know too much about Cayman, but I know in the case
just
of
generally.
Yeah, in the case of Barbados and in particular, I know that if you it's demonstrated, and even now it's a situation that country is grappling with, where if the civil service is, if you don't have the support of the civil service for some of the policy actions, they basically just sit on their hands, right? And don't implement the kinds of measures that you would like them to, that they are not in agreement with. So they may not voice it,
right, yeah,
but they voice it by their inaction. I don't know to the extent that happens here. I think that it's very important for the civil service, first of all, to you have to bring them along with you, right? You have to make sure that there is alignment, and you have to understand that these people have been there for how long and have seen people like you, politicians, come and go, and they're still there. Perhaps it's a lesson for politicians to get to understand what's really happening, how do things really work, what are the real problems, by paying attention to what the civil servants have to say.
And as you shared, I was thinking to two things. In accounting, there's the public accountant in the public sector, and then completely different how you approach accounting in government than you would in a private business. But also, I believe it was in the New Yorker magazine that first really kind of caught my attention. There was an article by some senior assistant on the Secretary of State, and very, very scathing relative to the government of the day. And I thought, oh, this is a politician, only to understand that that is a high-ranking civil servant. You know, people might say, well, their system is different, don't compare it. But if your civil service isn't independent, committed to getting the government's policies that they, effected and the like, but making sure that what is done, the politicians may last one term, they may be there for 4 terms or 40 terms or however long, but they come and go. The institutional nature of the civil service needs to be robust, effective, resilient, but somewhat agile. Now, a difficult balance. I mean, France example, I think, shows us it can be the person, whether it's that one or Trudeau, where we applaud and go, geez, you didn't leave yesterday, was this soon enough?
Yeah.
But that's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely critical for the civil service to be strong and robust and independent and effective. And I think that too many times we don't engage in sufficient public sector reform because the public sector that existed and that the colonizers put in place before independence in the 1960s, 70s, the nature of the public sector must evolve with the times, right? And I think too many of us, our countries in the Caribbean, we've not done the hard work of public sector reform as well. So,
and as we speak to Ms. Marla Dukharan, we certainly invite you to call if you want, 949. We'll take the break in 7 minutes or thereabouts. 949-8037, 949-6990. And then WhatsApp call 925-32621. As we're having this discussion and anticipating what your presentation on Friday at the Chamber, maybe some listening will say, oh, it's nice, but how does that affect me? And I honestly believe unless until someone feels something directly. And for some people, it has to be where it hurts them most in their pocketbook. They don't take note. They don't get off and help. How do we motivate people to understand that this thing isn't just now and it isn't just about them? It's impacting us continuously from the perspective, say, for instance, the cost of living. Everybody understands that, but nobody's willing to ask, well, what more can be done? Your mother would always tell you, $1 saved is $1 earned. People want to increase wages, but that wage increase comes at a cost of those goods increasing to pay for that wage increase, which may lead to another increased demand for wage to pay for the increased cost of the goods.
So you end up with an inflation spiral. Yeah.
Right? And yet, minimum wage for politicians, they say that, oh, we need a living wage, we need a minimum wage of $1,000 an hour. It sounds good, but in the analysis, the potential could be really, really the worst thing. Or could it? From the economics perspective?
Well, I mean, if I look at the most recent inflationary pressure we've had since COVID, initially it was supply side where, of course, Russia's invasion, COVID itself and the supply chain issues, and then Russia's invasion of Ukraine, etc., etc. But then what happened onwards was actually corporations, more than in the EU in particular, they did some research and found more than 50% of the inflation was driven by corporate profiteering.
Yep.
Right? So we need to find a regulatory mechanism to balance these things, because of course corporations exist to make a profit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's limits to everything for it to be healthy, right?
Right.
And this is crossing a limit. When you already have an inflationary environment, you then have more than 50% of your inflation being driven by profits. I don't think that the wage inflation spiral here in Cayman would have necessarily happened had you not had that much inflation coming from outside. In other words, we had a big push of imported inflation. But then, yes, you're right. We do have domestic factors as well. So I always use the example, when you have a country that has a large expatriate population, and in Cayman, the expatriate population is larger than the Caymanian, as you say, generational Caymanian population, as opposed to Barbados, where the expat population is smaller. If I am on the side of the road selling mangoes, right, and I'm selling my mangoes, $2 for one, And Sterling, you're a rich expat, working in the offshore banking sector, and you come and you say, well, $2 for one, I'll buy all. And then I can say, well, I can sell my mangoes now for $5 for one, and Sterling will still come and buy all my mangoes. Therefore, my price is $5.
Yeah.
Whereas the local person is not going to be able to pay $5. And so when you have this very big income inequality, that can also cause demand-driven inflation. And you've seen that in the property market here, right? And so you have to find, again, a regulatory way, a regulatory mechanism to temper that. And I know the government has in place, for example, local first-time home buyers, they get...
But that just increased the price because, what was maybe 100,000, that was 500,000, even with the stamp duty rebate. If you can't qualify because of your income, it's really just on paper.
Yeah.
I like how you shared, with such diplomacy, the corporate profiteering. I was looking earlier and I didn't know where I put it. Some European economists had shared that they were looking, given all of the markers, why prices weren't coming down, right? And they worded it in such a way. Then someone in the comments responded, "Oh, it's just corporate greed." That's what it is. There was no reason for prices to have been maintained at that level other than the artificial height.
They were trying to recover from what they lost during COVID, and the same with the airlines. The airline prices, ticket prices are just...
So, and this is where maybe in the Cayman context specifically, it's not an independent nation. I don't think, if I say it this way, if it is disrespectful or incorrect, certainly publicly let me know. But we don't have fiscal nor economic, and there's no fiscal and monetary policies that we deploy. There's no quantitative easing from no central bank. There's none of these things that our governments over the years have done. We borrow money, we raise fees or taxes, we invest in infrastructure. The economy, fairly much in the Cayman context, runs itself. Or does it?
Yeah, no, I don't think I agree with that, Sterling. So you do have monetary policy that's limited in the sense that you have a fixed exchange rate, and that's one of the biggest levers any small island, small open economy can use. So Jamaica, for example, Dominican Republic, they let their exchange rate vary, and that's a big part of how they manage their own external competitiveness, making sure that the prices of their exports, which are, commodity exports like agriculture, but also tourism-based exports, they use that mechanism to manage their economy. So we don't do that here in Cayman, and that's fine. But that in itself is a monetary policy, right? The government here cannot ask the central bank, being CIMA, to print money the way that, which happened in Barbados, happened in Trinidad, so which is good that you have these controls. So monetary policy is limited, yes, but fiscal policy is very big here. Right? The way that the government earns money and the way that the government spends money is fiscal policy. And the government here earns money mainly through indirect taxes, as well as the fees and work permit fees and so on that they earn from the primarily from the financial services sector. So fiscal policy is paramount in managing this economy. And so, for example, the fact that you have a fiscal framework that limits the amount you can borrow, limits the amount of your surplus/deficit, that's very important. Otherwise, I think if you did not have these controls in place, I think the economy would be in a much worse place, to be very honest.
I'll share some of your perspectives, and I like your candidates. We're going to pause and take that first break. To our listeners, we invite you to join us, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Here are a few tips that will benefit you. Ensure to log out completely when you finish any online banking activities. Be aware of phishing attempts and only click links from trusted sources that are sent from your device through emails and messages. Remember, Cayman National will never ask you for your credentials. If you suspect a fraud attempt or that your account has been compromised, please immediately contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its customers of a planned service interruption in Georgetown happening today from now until 3 p.m. to facilitate the repair of a main line leak. The following roads will be affected by the service interruption. They are Raven Avenue, Litigate Court, Flintstone Drive, Bedrock Circle, Rockshire Drive, and Ravenwood Court. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of its customers and the public as it repairs its water infrastructure and apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Is your child looking for a new academic, artistic, or athletic challenge? Dorman Day is delighted to announce their Winter Education Fair 2025. Introducing award-winning boarding schools from across the UK and Ireland. Join Dorman Day in Grand Cayman at the Georgetown Yacht Club on Friday, the 31st of January and Saturday, 1st of February, or in Cayman Brac at the Alexander Hotel on Monday, the 3rd of February. Talk to heads of schools and representatives in person. Meet their expert team offering free guidance at the fair. Register for the Winter Education Fair on Eventbrite or go to dormanday.ky. Call 936-3676 for more details.
Be part of the 2025 Chamber Economic Forum on Friday, 17th of January at the Kimpton Seafire. Join world-renowned economists Marla Dukharan, government leaders, and business experts as we explore the future of Cayman's economy. From workforce innovation to tourism sustainability, this is where bold ideas turn into action. Celebrate progress and 60 years of the Chamber's leadership and service to our community. Sponsored by CUC, DART, Health City Cayman Islands, and the Ministry of Tourism and Ports. Register now at caymanchamber.ky. Don't miss it.
Yesterday,
Today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
I'm April Cummings with your latest headlines. A man found dead on New Year's Day may have been the victim of an assault. Police today say they now believe the circumstances surrounding the death of 56-year-old Christopher Spencer Johnson are suspicious and that he may have been attacked between 4:30 and 7:30 a.m. the day he was found. Anyone with information relating to the incident is asked to contact the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service Criminal Investigations Department. The number is 947-2220. You can also make an anonymous tip to police on their confidential tip line at 949-7777 or online. Tips can also be submitted through the Cayman Crime Stoppers website. In international headlines, South African police today said they have ended a rescue operation at an abandoned gold mine where scores of illegal miners were trapped and believe they rescued all survivors and have retrieved the bodies of all those who've died. This announcement was a surprise, and it came just a day after the police minister said that the rescue operation would likely last until next week. Police said that 78 bodies had been recovered from the gold mine since the rescue operation began on Monday, and more than 240 survivors had been rescued. Sources tell the BBC Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire deal to end 15 months of war in Gaza. The deal follows months of talks. Hamas attacked southern Israel on the 7th of October 2023, killing about 1,200 people and taking 251 back to Gaza as hostages. That attack triggered a massive Israeli offense on Gaza, during which more than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed. That's according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman. More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter. Radio Cayman Headline News.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
Do you have a healthcare question but not sure who to ask? Contact HSA's Patient Call Center to speak to one of our experienced clinical team members. We are here to answer your questions and help guide you through your healthcare journey. Need to make an appointment? Our team can help. Contact HSA at 949-8600 or email info@hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Holroy Eric Lorenzo Walton, born on August 13, 1936 in Bogasan, Cayman, was not only an avid artist and seaman, affectionately named Roy, he also made significant impacts in the construction industry, founding H&A Construction in 1972 and working on landmark projects. He was also a passionate educator, hosting free art classes for children and fostering creativity through an annual art competition at Spot Bay Primary School. Roy and his wife Anne were dedicated to preserving the heritage of the Sister Islands, designing the lighthouse statue at the Cayman Brac and Little Cayman's Seamen's Center. Roy's efforts in collecting and displaying seafaring history ensured that the stories of Caymanian seafarers would be passed down to future generations. His life's work continues to resonate with the community and beyond.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Radio Cayman Talk Today continues.
Hey, welcome back and thanks for joining us. And with Miss Marla Dukharan sitting with us, a number of emails have come through, but want our callers to join us as well. 949-8037, 949-6990, our WhatsApp call. Paul, you paid the bill, right? Where you got money from? He didn't pay the bill. Let's check it out. Use your Wi-Fi, call WhatsApp 925-32621. Certainly very, very grateful to any opportunity to sit and chat with people who can offer a perspective, an informed perspective from, experience from elsewhere, but even when they have an insight within the Cayman landscape. And greatly appreciate that opportunity. Now, as we talk about some of the other things, can I, before I read, say two of these WhatsApp messages, anything you want to maybe throw on the table before I try to see if I can read this stuff?
No, you read it.
You
You
read
read
it?
it. Yeah.
I'll try, I'll try in my bedtime voice. Once upon a time. All right. So good afternoon to you and your guests. So we are in a season where political candidates often promise to reduce the cost of living if elected. Please speak of what measures, if any, politicians can take to reduce the cost of living in the Cayman context, and how local and international policy influences the cost of living.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So thanks for sending that in. A big part of what drives cost of living here and in any country in the Caribbean is the cost of our imports, because we import 90%, if not more, of what we consume, including fuel. Fuel is one of the biggest imports that we have across the Caribbean, except for countries like Trinidad and maybe Guyana and Suriname. So I think that one way is to transition more to renewable energy. And of course, we have an abundance of sunshine here. And I know it's not easy and it can be costly, this kind of transition. But I feel like it's important enough for the regulators and the power producer, CUC, to get on board and make sure that we can lift all boats with this rising tide as opposed to lifting only some boats. So that's the first thing. So I think fuel, eliminating fuel as much as possible. I mean, you can't eliminate all, but reducing fuel imports. I think, given that we have to import most of our food, because of course Cayman is not a country that can grow all of its food, as opposed to countries like Guyana, Suriname, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica, and so on. I think that tax policy and the way that food imports are taxed in terms of duties is something that you can really, the government can flex its muscle with, in being very careful how you tax, especially the basic food items. I think that's an important avenue that can be used. And also, I think when you look at the structure of Cayman's economy as it relates to tourism, and that a lot of food that is imported in Cayman is for the tourism sector, maybe there could be a way to ensure that the local population has access to the food that it needs at the I shouldn't say preferential, because you don't want to have two different price structures, but a tax structure that makes sure that the local people can benefit, but the tourists don't necessarily, because you don't want to forego your tax revenue so that a tourist can have cheaper food in Cayman. That's not necessarily a policy priority. So those are just some things, but I think tax policy is a big part of how you can move any cost. I think interest rates here, and this is something I will talk in detail about on Friday. I actually don't see any reason why interest rates on Cayman dollars here in the Cayman Islands needs to be pegged to the Fed funds rate, which is the rate on US dollars.
I've tried to find out why that is, and I can't get a definitive answer.
Well, I'm not ashamed to admit, as an economist, I don't understand either.
Oh, thank you.
I've gotten, and I mean, the bankers, I used to work at RBC, right?
Yeah.
The bankers have explained this to me, but they explain it from the perspective of, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Not that it has to work that way. And I think that government policy can be amended. And for example, CIMA can be empowered to manage local exchange rates on Cayman dollars.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you make it CIMA a full-fledged central bank.
And this is, I'm glad you shared that, because I would ask that question not at any point to offend anybody.
No,
but I honestly did not understand it to the point where we went to almost to the end of the earth to get the Bankers Association. Come on, talk to us. We won't take calls. You can structure the script. We just want to educate people. If banking or financial services is a pillar, then more of what people need to understand. Many of us don't even know how to open an account. We don't know some of the things to ask about getting a loan. It's not a mortgage. It's a demand loan, whether you structure it over 15 or 30 years. no response, no engagement, a sheer unwillingness. Then we asked, well, why is interest rates this way? If the published deposits are there, where's that money coming from? Are you saying you getting it from the Federal Reserve? If it is, then maybe they have a lot more sway and say in our economy. They don't. So why? Nobody from the politician to the banker, nobody gives a different answer. So I feel so dumb now.
Well, interest rates on US dollars will be set by the Fed. And if you try to put a different interest rate here, that money will just leave and go wherever is more attractive, whether US or here. But certainly on Cayman dollars, it does not need to be pegged to the Fed. Because, I mean, if I might just give a little background. So Cayman has a currency board arrangement. Which at CIMA, which Bermuda has and which the Eastern Caribbean has. And actually the Eastern Caribbean currency board arrangement it works magnificently. And each Cayman dollar is backed, more than fully backed by US dollars sitting in CIMA in reserve.
A fiat currency backing us. Okay.
Right, but it means that's a very important element of a currency board, and something that I think has served Cayman very well, because what it means is that the Minister of Finance can't do like what he's done in many countries in the Caribbean and tell the central bank governor, listen, I don't have money to pay salaries on Friday, could you print me 50 million? Right? And that has happened in many countries. That can't happen here. And I think so that currency board is not something I would mess with. I would leave it. It should be intact. But there is no real reason why CIMA, I think, can't be empowered to set interest rates on Cayman dollars.
That currency board it used to be called the Cayman Currency Board, then it became this monetary authority. In doing that, could we then, or should we? I mean, I think it's 1 for 1, actually even more than that. We have the same equivalent of the US dollar to back the Cayman dollar. Right?
Is it 1.25 US to 1?
Very healthy cash reserves backing it, but the US dollar is a fiat currency. There was much speculation that the US dollar was going to take a hit, for different reasons. Are we at risk then of dollar devaluation by default because of the backing of the US dollar? And if so, should we look at something else, gold or otherwise?
Well, to your point, once you're pegged to the US dollar, which most of us in the Caribbean are, however that US dollar moves relative to other global currencies like the euro, the sterling, the yen, etc., our currency also moves in a similar fashion because it's in lockstep, right? So to your point, yes, perhaps it is a good idea, and some countries do this. They don't hold reserves in one currency. They hold reserves in a trade-weighted basket, for example. And so you can hold, as a matter of fact, there are central banks who are now holding cryptocurrency in their reserve. You can hold gold. Lots of central banks hold gold. And a basket of currencies depending on what currencies are relevant for your country. And so that's absolutely, I don't know what is the currency breakdown composition of the reserves at CIMA that are backing this currency. I think it's mostly US.
I think it's all, pretty much all US, but again, something to consider, right?
Absolutely. Because the US dollar is losing importance globally.
Global trade has reduced significantly in US dollars. And I actually was going to ask, I did say that I'd talk about the BRICS and not just the move away from the SWIFT system, but what could happen now that the petrodollar isn't as much as it was, right? But with that, in the Cayman context, we have a fixed exchange rate with the US dollar. It benefits us when other foreign currencies, become cheaper for the Cayman dollar to purchase. The Caymanian student going over to Canada, for instance, was it 56 cents now, I think? Well, that's sort of last rate, but it was getting 68, 69 cents. So that'll benefit us. Should we float the CI dollar? Should we do what other jurisdictions do? I mean, I have my view, but...
Yeah, we only have a few floating currencies in the Caribbean. We have Jamaica, Dominican Republic. Trinidad and Tobago is supposed to be a managed float, but the government years ago just pegged it hard and just left it there.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's actually against the law what they're doing. But anyhow, that's a whole other show.
I almost want to ask you, because you published accounts on the what would be the word? The seepage? I don't know. The loss.
The errors and omissions item on the balance of payments,
Yeah,
through which Trinidad is losing $2 billion on average a year. Yes, that
little errors and omissions, you call it?
errors and omissions. That's what they call it, errors and omissions. I don't
$2
think
billion.
I don't think it's an error. I think it's deliberate. But anyhow, I don't have court clothes, so let me stay quiet.
You brought
Before
walking
they
shoes?
come for me, they know where I am. I'm on air live in Cayman.
Yeah. In fact, I think Paul is good friends with the Prime Minister. He can call
Oh
him.
dear, I should run.
You should run. Apparently, he said, about 80,000 a month pension he getting, the 2 million back pay. He was telling me all about it, the party they can have, the line they got going on. No, but that's significant funds that politicians can impact the economy.
It is. But let's go back to the discussion on floating. I actually don't think that for Cayman, the structure of Cayman's economy would be wise to float. I think it works for the Dominican Republic and Jamaica because they are much larger in terms of population. I mean, Dominican Republic is over 10, nearly 11 million people. Last time I saw, Jamaica is 2.8.
3 million just about, right?
Almost, yeah. And they have very dynamic economies. They have an agriculture sector, they have tourism sector, they have manufacturing sector, etc., etc. And so, because they are very export driven, for those sectors, having a currency that can move has benefited them in terms of maintaining external competitiveness. I don't think that Cayman needs to do that, and I don't think it. I think it's small enough that this hard peg with the currency board arrangement is working.
Well, I won't call his name, but see, I told you so. In that discussion with that yet to be known and named individual, he strongly proposed that we should devalue
the Cayman
dollar. And I'm saying,
to what
side of the face do you want me to slap you on, right?
What was his reasoning? What was his evidence?
It is what I said to him, and only because he's not here to defend himself and because it's in the presence of probably my mama listening as well, I'll be a little more polite. He's talking about the American tourist coming to Cayman gets a shock. Your dollar is only 80 cents, right? And when we go and we purchase and government charges at 20%, his reasoning to me wasn't sound. It only seemed that if we're 1-to-1 to the US dollar, then that just makes it, because we're a small place, why do we think we're better? And like my interpretation, I'm going, but I'm shorter than you, but I'm better looking. That's just how it is, right? I said that, it was true. So some people, you need to challenge them. And we're good friends. I mean, we can enjoy that kind of the banter. But just like the bank's been unable or unwilling to explain why the interest rates are such and why it's pegged to the US, I don't feel that his reasoning is valid. But we're neither, as academically inclined as you. So,
I mean, you're pretty much dollarized, right? It's a what we would call in economics a partial dollarization, right? You're not formally dollarized the way Panama is, or
Or even Barbados to some extent, you think?
No, Barbados is much less dollarized than Cayman.
Okay.
Yeah. Barbados is one of only 2 countries in this region that has foreign exchange controls, Bahamas and Barbados. Official foreign exchange controls. So you still...
Not Trinidad as well?
Trinidad has de facto foreign exchange controls. Like I said, the authorities right now are operating outside of the law.
Okay.
We are not supposed to have foreign exchange controls, but they've just, politicians wake up and decide that they want to do things their own way, and nobody holds them to account.
Wow.
Yes.
That
That's what's
happens?
happening in my country. Yes, absolutely.
No. I don't do sarcasm, man. I shouldn't do that. I was just being...
So no, I don't think that you need to float your currency here at all. I think the way that this currency is managed is quite appropriate.
And this is where I think the wisdom, for the most part, of our forefathers when they were looking at the financial services. I think the challenge now is for us as politicians, as policymakers within the appointed civil service, is to stop paying lip service to things. For to that messenger who says, well, politicians are going to promise now because we're going into an election. We know the problems, or we should be aware of them, but there's little or no willingness, seemingly political will, to address with meaningful, timely solutions that are going to impact people in a way that, whether it's the movement of concessions, whether it's a tax in or not. You reference food and food security. I'm of the view that a lot of the foods that we consume are at or near duty-free, yet the prices are still fairly high in the minds of the consumer. So rice and flour and breads and the like, a lot of those, even ice cream, I think at one point. We have a lot of duty-free items, but the consumer is of the view we don't see the savings passed on.
Well, you do have shipping costs to pay and insurance and all of that.
Right.
So I can't speak to what the markup would be on these kinds of items, but it is something to look at, and the authorities can actually. In Barbados, for example, during COVID, the Prime Minister called the whole private sector in and said, we have to bring down the cost of those same items you mentioned, bread, milk, etc., etc. And they deploy people to the supermarkets to collect data on what is the price on the shelf.
Yeah. We do the same.
Yeah, you can manage some of those things very effectively.
I'll ask, and certainly we don't need to engage now, but again, many people talk about price controls, whether it's rent controls, whether it's in food, and if you're inclined, what's your view on a government employing price controls? Yeah, rents, for instance, or foods of this nature can't be sold for more than this. I have my own view, but again, I could be misguided. Is that good for an economy? Does that benefit the consumer?
I think, like everything else, there are pros and cons. I would first start with, what is the problem we're trying to solve?
Okay.
What is the problem we're trying to solve? Is the problem we're trying to solve a problem of poverty? Well, price controls is not how you solve that. Is the problem that the people who are importing food items and selling it on these shelves are, as we would say in Trinidad, digging out we eye? They're making so much profit, as we spoke of earlier, the greed and the profiteering. If that is the problem, well, this is a small enough place. Call them all in and say, you can't do this, right? And you can mandate ask them for their evidence of their cost structure and mandate certain prices, which is not the same as price control, but you can use moral suasion, you can persuade as well as you can mandate, that certain food items should be at a certain level, as well as the state can subsidize, which is not something I generally would recommend, except for maybe a brief period of time for a specific reason. Like if after you have a hurricane, you might want to subsidize water and, basic food, things like that. But so I think you have to go back to the fundamentals. What is the problem we're actually trying to solve? And show me the data that this is the problem we're trying to solve. And then from there, we can figure out what is the best solution. But going back, I wanted to make a point about your earlier point about politicians and them promising to bring prices down and control the cost of living, et cetera, et cetera. Do you not have a situation here where these politicians and parties publish manifestos?
We do, right? But again, when I look at it, are these things measurable? Are they
well, they should be. Otherwise, I could have a manifesto and say, I will bring manna from the sky. But you have to tell me how you're going to bring this manna from the sky, right?
This is it.
You have to interrogate the manifesto, and as a member of the electorate, the onus is on the electorate.
This is it, and I'm glad you shared it, because I keep saying, as much as I do it, and we all do, we beat up on a politician, but we, the voter, we are responsible. We need to be informed and engaged.
And hold them to account.
Hold them to account. And not just at the polls on election day, but throughout, not to micromanage.
Absolutely.
But to ensure that you're representing us. And I think many times when we have, say, elections coming up, groupings or parties or individual publish something, I always said if I do it, it would be an agenda as opposed to a manifesto. We want to do this by this time, specific and measurable objectives. We don't do that. But is the voter prepared for that. I'm told by many, the voters don't want that level of, sort of specific detail. As an individual, I want that. You're going to build me a house? How much it's going to cost? How are you going to build it? And by when?
And also how?
How?
Because many politicians promise many things, and the question is the how, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unless they can really convince you that the how. But if it is that the electorate is really not interested in that level of detail, well, then that speaks to the kind of results that the electorate will get.
You get the government you deserve, huh? All right, we're going to pause in a bit for the break, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were speaking earlier about taxes and the notion. I want to perhaps ask what we've heard the incoming president in the U.S. talk about. He's going to do away with the IRS and instead replace it with an external revenue service and his objectives. Ask that, and in so doing, ask in the Cayman context. Many have questioned over the years. One freshman politician in 2000, when his first contributions as the answer reflect, talked about direct taxation. We called it all sorts of things. Is that a good thing for a country like Cayman to consider? If so, should it just be on income? Should it be on dividends, corporate taxes? Should it be on properties or the like? Could we ask about that?
Absolutely.
All right, Marla Dukharan is our guest. She speaks to the chamber on Friday. We have her here today. So we're going to enjoy and learn. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Here are a few tips that will benefit you. Ensure to log out completely when you finish any online banking activities. Be aware of phishing attempts and only click links from trusted sources that are sent from your device through emails and messages. Remember, Cayman National will never ask you for your credentials. If you suspect a fraud attempt or that your account has been compromised, please immediately contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Has your child been diagnosed with ADHD, or have you been told to seek an assessment for your child based on certain hyperactive, inattentive, or impulsive behaviors? Then the Family Resource Center's Understanding ADHD virtual workshop can help. The workshop supports parents' understanding of ADHD, parenting strategies for children with ADHD, and other useful information to support your child. Contact Family Resource Center at frc@gov.ky to reserve your spot for this free workshop.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we have I used to say, the distinct honor and privilege to sit with Marla Dukharan. A couple of people have messaged in, I'll read those, but those who are asking for the number, I'll give it again, 949-837, 949-6990, or WhatsApp call 925-32621. Let me read this message that came in as we went to the break. It says that the manifestos can be misleading. It's all about making empty promises after being elected to office. They do nothing, only a lot of big words in Parliament, and the cycle continues. And this individual message, hopefully I will call in, wanted to know if there's calls. I said, yes, here are the numbers. Says, want to know why are the shops in the particular supermarkets and the utilities where they get to choose their own exchange rate? Who doesn't the card machine do automatic conversion at the bank's rate? I read it verbatim. I get it paid in US dollars and all my earnings stay in Cayman. It's not fair that I get penalized by paying 2 cents more. It adds up over time. Hopefully this person will call in and engage us so we can understand more. But I know that some people, when they get the utility bills, for instance, they'll see the CI and then they'll see the US equivalent at 0.82. Some say if they pay in the CI, then they lose, or if they pay in US, they lose. Some have shared with me that when they go to some of these different businesses, they have to pay in US. Banks, presumably, some banks, automatically, without any sort of input or ability of the consumer to object, change the CI dollar denominated lending to US dollar.
Is the US dollar legal tender here?
The only legal tender is the CI dollar.
No, well then no. If once a currency is legal tender, which is your CI dollar, it means that all obligations
must be settled.
You must accept that currency in settlement of all obligations.
So with that bank scenario, I've known a few people informally, myself included, went to see him and say, but how can this happen? And what if others say one time you get a better response from a blank wall? So is this thing that happens in the economy where we are accepting, and those who question are looked at as troublemakers, right? But if the CI dollar is the only legal we don't seem to have a clear and well-established understanding.
That's interesting. You have lots of lawyers here in this country. I would get a lawyer.
Yeah, what we need are people with backbone and spine and courage, but that's a different story,
That's true.
So this one says, your economist was speaking about interest rates and how it's tied to Wall Street. Not quite, but who can we, the consumer, approach to have the situation addressed? Again, I read it verbatim, you can read. But this is where the knowledge and discussion publicly of economics is woefully lacking. Because even those who know a little don't know enough. Right?
Yeah, and that's okay, because, engineers, pilots, lawyers don't necessarily have to understand economics, just like I don't understand those things, right?
Thankfully, right?
But I think to the point of the person who sent the message about the manifesto, and then, they put lots of lofty, promises and goals, and then nothing materializes. The thing about it is the way that a democracy works is that we are supposed to hold our leaders to account. We have mechanisms to do that, but perhaps these mechanisms are not as robust and powerful as, this Westminster system, as you mentioned earlier, is probably not the best for that. One of the things I will talk about on Friday, and there's going to be a panel to talk about the chamber launching a government scorecard. You heard about this?
Yeah, didn't you talk about that all the time? But anyway.
So it's a very, very interesting idea. It's basically, if the government promises to move this glass from here to here, you're going to have a report card at the end of the quarter, just like we do for the children in school. Did you really move the glass from here to here? Did you get an A, B, C, D? How was your performance? So it's a performance management system in a sense, but what it does is it's a mechanism for the government to be held to account by civil society, which I think is a beautiful idea and mechanism.
I like the concept of accountability of some sort of scorecard. As you said, I think back to the U.S. sometime ago when hospitals were being scored. I think U.S. News, World Report, whatever, they used to publish this. Always question who's doing it and the motivations and the like. In that vein, I question, is the chamber the best entity to be, preparing the scorecard? But in the absence of any other organized entity, right? So the chamber, as one caller calls it, a businessman's union, it has, again, allegedly gone away from its original charter of being more community-based. I don't know to what extent the wider populace could or should put any great credence in what the chamber says, does, lobbies or otherwise, not unlike the lawyers or the other professional associations. They're looking out for their interests. Does it align with the socio-economic policies that uplift our society? And when we're looking at infrastructure development, the chamber one time wanted to privatize everything from garbage collection to education. It might be good, but is it beneficial?
Well, before we go to the question, that point on education, I mean, there is data that shows that it costs the government more per student than a private school, and the outcomes are worse. So it might be a good basis to privatize the school. Now, to go to the other question you're asking, is the chamber the right place to do this? You just spoke earlier about some of us have to grow a spine, Sterling. And if you don't have, if there is nobody putting their hand up and say, okay, I've grown a spine, I want to hold the government to account, the fact that the chamber is doing it, I think is laudable. I think they need to be commended and encouraged for doing this. You can debate whether they're the right or wrong agency to do it. I think in the absence of anybody else doing it, why not the chamber?
And why only the chamber?
And why only the chamber? To me, it should be the civil society more broadly should be involved in something like this. But again, it goes back to the electorate, right?
Organization, right?
Institutions, quality.
Any entity or grouping that is organized has a voice. What's his name? The Labor Secretary under Clinton the first term. I know he calls himself not Reich. Professor at UCLA. Oh, jeez, man. I'll come back to it. Saving Capitalism was his latest, one of his latest books. It was, I can see his presentation, but he talked about how the impact of the lobbyists on legislation, what they wanted, and the small grouping has such a significant impact on the outcome, whether it gets on the agenda or gets taken off. And the more that I look at it, it is important for us as an electorate to not just get involved, to get registered, but to be organized in such a way that you have a basis to comment. There's safety in numbers, but there's also a level of security. And so we complain about whether it's the Tourism Association, how that's structured, the bankers, the lawyers, the chamber. But if we, the populace, isn't doing likewise, then someone's going to fill that void.
Well, and thank God that the chamber is willing to do this. I think it's a very important role to play. To hold the government to account. Otherwise, they do what they do like in my country, right? And there's nobody holding them to account. And that, I've seen democracy, I've seen freedom of been eroded in my country, and that's not where you want to go. So I think the chamber needs to be supported for doing this. And I think that, after the election, when there is a new government in place, any government that comes into power that does not want this scorecard is something you should pay attention to as the electorate. I would pay particular attention if they don't support it.
And I would even go one step further and ask us as the wider electorate to look at that scorecard, whoever's doing it, and see how objective and impartial it is. Your example of the glass, we're going to move this glass from here to here by this date at this cost. It has to be very specific and measurable.
Absolutely.
And if the score is an A or an F, then we need to look at it and go, well, that's a fair and reasonable assessment. It isn't just because we're trying to make something look bad or we're trying to curry favor? And when you have that lack of objectivity?
Well, one way to maintain the objectivity is you can look at what the government itself has set in terms of its goals. So every year or 2 years the government comes with a budget and they talk about what are the goals they're going to achieve and at what cost and in what time frame. One mechanism is to just develop a scorecard coming out of that. You also have the strategic policy goals that the government publishes. You can use that as a basis for crafting your scorecard. But I use the example of Jamaica. So this idea of the scorecard came out of what Jamaica did. Out of its IMF program, they constituted the Economic Policy Oversight Committee. And this Economic Policy Oversight Committee, or EPOC, it was comprised of people from the opposition, people from government and the civil service, people from civil society. And this committee was charged with the responsibility of holding the government to account for all of the goals that they set for themselves under this IMF program. So fiscal targets like debt reduction and so on, foreign exchange reserves and so on, but things also like social targets, so unemployment rate, inflation rate, etc. And what this committee does is it receives the data every quarter from the government that says, okay, this is what we've achieved. We said we were going to move this glass from here to here. We actually only did this, and this is why, and this is how we're going to wheel and come again, right? So, over a period of time, of course, initially and I did a video interview, it's on my YouTube channel, where I interviewed the president of the EPOC. His name is Keith Duncan. He went through and explained to me how the EPOC came about, how it functions, the kinds of mechanisms to get the data and the feedback from the government. And he literally sits on the corner by the rum shop on a quarterly basis and explains to the people what the government achieved, what they didn't achieve, why they didn't achieve it, how they're going to wheel and come again. And this is why Jamaica has made the progress Jamaica has made in the past 10 years. And so I have seen how this mechanism works. And Jamaica started from a very rough place in 2011 compared to where Cayman is now. So I can only imagine the kinds of prosperity and positive outcomes you can see out of a simple thing like holding the government to account for what it says it's going to do.
And not, we have a call, Ms. Marla.
Yes.
That's on our WhatsApp. Let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing. Hello?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Hey, what's happening, man? You okay?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, here's hoping that all the listeners in Radio Land, as the airs.
Very well in tune, eh? Oh, that caller there. Okay, when you get back in to that range, so you can call us. You there, caller? All right. Actually, call his neighbor and tell him go next door see if it's lying down. Hopefully, he'll get the call back. 925-3261 is your WhatsApp number. You can call or send a message. Two other numbers you can dial, 949-8037 or 949-6990. Or you can try the toll-free line, 1-800-534-8255. Hopefully he'll call back. He always has very insightful, instructive comments to share. And maybe at the end of the day, as you were sharing, if we look at Jamaica and seeing its progress, the political nature of things aside, civil society, the civil service, and the private sector, collaborative working, not just to improve the economical, financial outcomes, but to raise education, the social injustices are being addressed, the infrastructure, roads, and the like. 10 years, it's a short time, but it could be beneficial for a century if done properly.
And look at where Jamaica was in 2011, 2012. They were in a rough place,
Yeah.
So think of a country like Cayman, which is nowhere near the kinds of crisis Jamaica is in, was in, what it could do for you. I'm actually quite excited.
And this is where I wrote down earlier maybe to ask the notion of, if not now, perhaps another time, but the topic was Cayman and the wider Caribbean. And we saw attempts, in the Caribbean, either at some level of economic integration, we saw political machinations, we see the EU, over decades getting somewhere. Okay, I think the caller is trying back. Mr. Carl? Paul? All right, we take the call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing. Hello, sir?
Me again.
Yes, sir.
Disconnected somehow there.
Yeah, well...
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Sorry?
Yes, sir. Thanks for trying back. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what I was in the process of asking was, and saying, to the open public, everyone in radio land, in the, sound of this lady's and your voice, should pay close attention, wide eyes and ears wide open. Very important.
Thank you.
You don't get this chance very often to.
She's amazing, huh?
With that type of expertise, Yes, I was directing question to the lady there in regards. I called in recently, 2 days ago to be exact, in regards to, especially as a developing country, with the lack thereof, doesn't seem to be in any form, fashion, or degree of consumer protection. We import just about everything. And, I heard you mention Chamber of Commerce several times, but, and Sterling kind of hinted on it, maybe not as, bold as I will say it, but seem to be a bunch of business people who got together to protect their own interests. When you think about it, Cayman as a developing country doesn't have anything for the ordinary person, out here, the masses of us as representatives other than the government. So that's why we look for everything for them to be the answers. In many instances, I think sometimes we may be expecting too much, too quick, too fast. And, promises, is something that, politics is a popularity contest. That's a given. So you should expect, to get answers of assurance. But, as it plays out, many times it's just not, it's not possible to achieve a lot of these things. But, saying what needs to be said isn't probably the best thing to do, as to convince someone, tell them what they want to hear. You know how that goes? Seduction, you know how that is. So anyway, the question to the point is, as a developing country, you call it, we doesn't have any form of consumer protection or Better Business Bureau, etc. Going forward, how detrimental or how much an enhancement it could be socially for the Cayman Islands to have some form or degree of that. I don't mean next 50 years. I mean like now. Discussion is to the lady.
Yes.
Is we asking too much? Am I asking too much? Or if it is to a point we could achieve that, how do we go about it?
That's a good question. I wasn't aware that you did not have any kind of consumer protection institution or mechanism here in Cayman. But you're right. I think it is something that should exist. How do you go about doing it? I don't have the answer to that off the top of my head. I would have to do some digging. But I think absolutely you should. And it's very, civil society organizations are very important to preserve integrity and accountability for the authorities as well as the business sector. And yes, the business sector, they have their own civil society institution in the chamber. But Stilling was mentioning earlier that, perhaps people need to be more organized. And if enough citizens want this kind of agency, then they can organize and make it happen. But I think I want to ask the question. I want to go back to, like I said to Stilling a little while ago, what is the problem you're actually trying to solve? Because if you feel like it's a problem where there is, too much profiteering and the business community is price gouging, well, that's something that certainly you can take to your MPs, to your government. If you have evidence of that, there should be a mechanism to lodge a formal complaint. But yes, for sure, I think it would be a good idea if enough of you can get together and organize and. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for that opinion. Just maybe quickly, just sum this up by saying, in many instances, we have non-duty-free items that's bought here that we're still charged exorbitant prices for. What if if you have a complaint that in some instances service is bad or whatever, who do you go to? I think we have some form of I don't know to be official either, complaints commission or something. I haven't heard too much Papa galore about them either. So I'm only saying that as a developing country, I think it's dire. It's not. I mean, it's like it's open country to the point where anything goes. That can be good. You got to be some measure of disparity between merchant and if it's just the door going to swing one way. I think in time to come, you're going to find a lot of disgruntled people that may encourage theft, maximized crime.
Think maybe you're speaking about a broader cost of living issue as opposed to just particular items on the shelf that you think should be at a lower price. And if you're talking about
yes, ma'am. I was indirectly, but at the same time, I was also mentioning what could be the repercussions of all of this, in the sense of when people are deprived too much. And, I don't, when you got a disgruntled society, I think you should be able to know that. That's how your country has evolved in many instances where you'll find that developing really on social level is not harmonic. That can be good for any society.
Absolutely.
And especially a country like Cayman that depends on tourism, I think the reflections will not be pretty.
Yeah.
If it's not addressed, but to some degree, I'm not, go down, because someone was mentioned a few days ago who, I have a lot of respect for that particular individual who has a lot of experience. And he was saying that, in order to get that, something to this effect, that if it needs taxation, those things come through taxation. I would hope not that's 100% right.
I'm not sure that
you follow.
I'm not sure that I agree.
That since we don't have direct taxation, it'll be an issue then. That's like the blocking factor from getting consumer protection. If I
don't think you need to have taxation to have that. I think
I didn't think so either. I didn't think it had to be that extreme. I mean, God help us all if that's the case. I hope we wouldn't have to go independent or rewrite the constitution to get that. I mean, these are elements of any society. I mean, why in third world countries? But then again, third world countries is taxed, so that could be an argument there too. For that, which to me that doesn't really hold a lot of water. A lot of third world countries has a lot of things, the fabric, privileges and rights in their social development that we don't have, but yet we're a first world country, and it kind of bothers me and it puzzles me as to how that can be. Because to me, remaining the land of a country is the land of a country is the sovereignty of its people. But to me, that's not really evident here. And I'll close by saying, regardless of where it might seem, how staunch it might seem to be, democracy, really true democracy, as I said, ain't all that democratic as we know it. Thanks. Just consider what I'm saying.
All right. Hey, thanks very much for that point. Before we take the news break, Ms. Marla?
That was a lot to respond to. I have you read the ESO published quality of life survey that they did, And of course, cost of living was something that appeared in there. I think that's. I'm so glad they did that survey. I wish I could get my hands on the data, some like the actual data to do some analysis, because I feel like that is at the core. The cost of living is at the core of so many of the complaints and challenges that you hear people expressing. And like I said, there are many ways to solve that problem. And that's one of the things I will talk more about on Friday. But for sure, I don't think that you need to have taxes to have a consumer protection agency.
I'm so glad that there's somebody else who looks at taxes, because they can serve as a disincentive in many ways, right?
Again, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
I like how you asked the question. All right, we're going to go to the news break. We do have a caller, hopefully we'll get after. And we also want to ask, as you talk about, what are some of the things that we should be looking for to watch out for in 2025 in Cayman context?
Yep.
We can talk about that. All right.
Yep.
Join us after the break. Ms. Marla will share with us till about 2:15.
Yeah, 2:15. So you have a little bit.
Okay. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier. Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
There you go, sir. Thanks for choosing JN Money Transfer.
Boy, thanks to JN Money Transfer, I can stay right here in Cayman and pay mama bills back home in Jamaica. Her water, light, phone and other bills never late. Every month I pay everything in one place.
Make payments to over 30 companies in Jamaica through JN Money Transfer. Fast, affordable, convenient. Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
Cayman Vets has doubled their reward money for a missing dog. A $10,000 reward is now up for the return of a missing dog that goes by the name of Spiky Haggis. No questions will be asked and no further action will be taken if Spiky is safely returned. The $10,000 reward is for a limited time only. Spiky is blonde in color and is a Pomeranian mix with a distinctive scar above his left hip. Spiky went missing mid-November in the area of Selkirk Drive and Bimini Drive. Cayman Vets is asking that if you have seen Spiky, a blonde Pomeranian mixed dog, to please call or take a picture and send it to 525-5838. That's 525-5838.
Dream Big Cayman. The Ministry of Education is here to help you make it happen. With overseas scholarships for the 2025-2026 academic year, you can receive up to CI $35,000 per year to study abroad. Whether it's your first step toward greatness or the next step in your journey, the possibilities are endless. But don't wait. Applications close January 31st, 2025. Visit moescholarships.gov.ky and make your move today. Your future is calling. Answer it now.
We are Radio Cayman,
covering Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman.
1 in a million. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market.
A call is out for site preparation and fill work for the proposed George Dixon Park. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Heritage is seeking to employ the services of a contractor to strip and fill approximately 14,500 square feet of land located in East End. The deadline for applications is the 30th of July. Head to government's Bonfire Hub procurement site for more information. I'm April Cummings with your latest headlines. In international news, millions of Southern Californians were on edge as a final round of dangerous fire weather was forecast for the region today, along with a rare warning of a particularly dangerous situation for an area near where two massive blazes have killed at least 25 people and destroyed hundreds of homes. Some 40,000 people have applied for assistance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which has already dispersed more than $8 million for immediate needs, things like water, food, baby formula, and gas. Best-selling British author Neil Gaiman released a statement today denying that he had ever engaged in non-consensual sex after a magazine this week published allegations from several women accusing him of sexual assault. The 64-year-old author of the Sandman comic book series and the novel American Gods was responding to a New York Magazine article that detailed allegations of assault, abuse, and coercion leveled by 8 women. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
You can now renew your driver's license or motor vehicle license online, and you don't need an ESID number. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its customers of a planned service interruption in Georgetown happening now until 3 p.m. this afternoon to facilitate a repair of a main line leak. The following roads are affected: Raven Avenue, Litigate Court, Flintstone Drive, Bedrock Circle, Rockshire Drive, and Ravenwood Court. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of its customers and the public as it repairs its water infrastructure and apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
Radio Cayman Talk Today continues.
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for this opportunity. Another 10 minutes are there, but with Miss Marla Dukharan. Before we continue chatting, let's take this next call. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Hey, my friend, how are you today, man?
I'm excellent. I want to thank you for having Miss Dukharan on. I always like to hear her when she speaks.
Well, thank you. I want to thank her for accepting the invite to join us.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to you.
Hi. I have an easy question for you today.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is 4.
If you had unilateral authority, what are the top issues that you would give priority to that must be done urgently before anything else in the Cayman Islands?
Ooh. I love that. If I was queen just for one day. Okay, let's see. The first thing I would deal with Mount Trashmore, because seriously, I mean, this is how many governments have attempted to address this, and it's still something's really wrong with this equation here. And I would definitely deal with that first. Stilling and I spoke earlier, and I will talk more about it on Friday, about a mechanism, whatever you want to call it, some mechanism to hold government to account for what it says it's going to do. And the reason I would do that is because the only country in the Caribbean that I've seen made significant positive change in the past decade, or just over a decade, has been Jamaica. And how did they do it? There was a lot that went into it, a lot of reform. But one of the biggest things that I think that made the biggest change for Jamaica, biggest positive change, is the fact that they had this economic policy oversight committee that basically held the government to account every quarter publicly for what the government said it was going to do. And I think that because what you measure gets managed and what you manage gets done, right? And so Jamaica has come a long way from where they were in 2011, partly based on this accountability. So that's the second thing I would do. The third thing, I would fix the beach erosion problem on 7 Mile Beach, because, I mean, honestly, I feel like bawling every time I go and I see what's going on. I mean, I've been coming to the Cayman Islands for many years, maybe 15, 20, I don't remember. It's heartbreaking to see what's happening there. And I know that it's partly based on, the way that tides have changed and sea level rise and all of that, but it's also partly built on built structures that are, not where they should be. And that needs to be addressed. So that's the third thing I would fix. Cost of living, which of course everybody has been talking about and seems to be, one of the biggest complaints coming from the average person, which is understandable. That's something that I would address. There are various ways of addressing it. It would require some in-depth study in terms of what is really driving, whether it's really profiteering as opposed to just supply side factors that we can't control. I would do some diagnostics to figure out what's really driving that, and I would address that problem. And the fifth problem, you asked for 5, right?
No, I said few, but you can keep going.
Okay, no.
I'll be taking. No, I can see this. No, let me stop. All right. We have one more call, and then Miss Marla is gonna exit at 2:15. All right. Yeah. So don't want you to feel disrespected or dismissed. All right.
Yeah. Well, it is. Jeez. I forgot. Yeah. I forgot the other question I was going to ask her.
That's okay. That was a brilliant question. I'm glad you asked. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. And maybe for our segment, perhaps the final call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year to both of you. Your guests and to you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And yes, Mr. Sterling. I hope that our year 2025 would be a very good and healthy year for all of us, because we seem to be losing quite a bit, unfortunately. But my call was about what your guest just said last about the beach erosion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I am 72, going on 73, and I was brought up here.
Mm-hmm.
We always, if Caymanians would speak up and they would tell the truth, we always had a beach erosion. And what happens is, as God wants it to happen, it will happen, and then the sun would come back, and then we sometimes have a much wider beach than what it was taken away. But coming up in those days, it wasn't all of these condos that believe that they have to build down where they're not supposed to build. And a lot of that is caused through that. But I would not go ahead and say, spend the money, the people's money, to put back sand or the next bad nor'wester we have, or God forbid, a hurricane again, would take all of that away. And then it brings it back, because that is a part of nature.
Mm.
If those people that live in those condos, or own those condos, I should say, want that beach fixed, then they fix it. Because, to be honest with you, they want, most of them that can afford to buy these $4, $5, up to $7 million condos, we don't need to worry about them. They are multimillionaires. So it's our beach, all right, but then they should help out in things like that. And I know that your guest is going to soon leave.
Yes, ma'am.
But please, just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Mr. Sterling knows that sometimes happens, and sometimes it happens even worse. That we go on the beach, and the beach is so narrow, and you can see the roots of some of the trees, and it makes you feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
But the good Lord will set us some more and bring some more sun up there, and it's going to be wider.
Yeah.
I know that's going to happen.
All right. Hey, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for listening, and
God bless, ma'am.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks very
Good
much.
afternoon.
All right.
Thanks for the question. I think absolutely the cost should be borne by all the stakeholders. And I do recall seeing that homeowners, in particular, some along the stretch had promised to, had pledged to support, financial support for the beach renourishment effort. So I think that is happening.
Yeah. Thank you too for sending that report. We've seen some publications of it, or I guess media accounts of it. So hopefully we'll see it happening, and we'll see what works. But again, that collaborative approach where we're looking at, I call it, not unlike what Japan did, Cayman-ique. We all work together because I like your analogy. What's that? A rising tide floats all ships.
Absolutely. It should.
It should. Well, Ms. Marla, always a pleasure. I think our listeners were very attentive as the gentleman shared. Hopefully everybody's tuned in. And the presentation on Friday, is not just a resounding success, but one that helps to inform and instruct and causes the rest of us to question, but act, with a sense of consciousness. So thanks very much.
Sterling. Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure, and it's an honor, and I really appreciate every time that you have me on. I appreciate everybody in Cayman. I always enjoy my time here. I have a few more days left, so thank you for having me, and everybody have a very good afternoon.
All right.
Take good care.
Thanks. We're going to pause, and when we come back, a few minutes of open line, so stay tuned.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Protect your computers and mobile devices with security software to defend against cyber attacks through viruses, malware, and other online threats. Be aware of unsecure Wi-Fi connections when in public. If you need to access your online banking or sensitive information on your mobile devices, try disabling the Wi-Fi and switching to data from your mobile network. If you suspect a fraud attempt, please contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And as the clock, says 2:18, 12 minutes left for today's program, as we invite you to share, if you wish, in the remaining open line segment. Thanks again to Miss Marla Dukharan for sitting with us. Every time the opportunity presents, she's always very willing to share from her perspective. Always very grateful for that opportunity, as she's most gracious. The presentation at the Chamber on Friday, if you are registered in attendance, I think you'll benefit greatly. We did not, out of respect to her, but also to the audience then, ask for too much of what she'll share. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful presentation that'll get reported, and then we can benefit from it thereafter. But some of the things she has indicated to the last caller's, the second to last caller's question about the things to be fixed. Things that we all are aware of. The question is, do we have the courage to acknowledge the problems and then go with the will to find meaningful, timely, and decisive solutions and implement them? But as Ms. Marla has asked, what is the problem we're trying to address? Many times I don't think that we are willing to ask. For me, if you don't acknowledge something, you can't address it. So maybe that's the first step. Let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing. Hello. Okay, to that caller and others, 949-8037, 949-6990, or you can WhatsApp call 925-3261. Let's see if this caller can connect. Hey, welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
What's it doing?
Hey, there you are. Sometimes, it's not the click, but it's the willingness to. So thanks for calling, man. How are you?
All right, man. I couldn't tell if I was on one.
Okay, well, you are live, and I don't think, no, you're live, man. You go right ahead.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having our guest on to explain certain things.
Mm-hmm.
That CKC probably might come to us, or, if we don't this and if we don't do this and do that. I think she's very smart and very experienced in what she's talking about.
Thanks, man. And there's a way that, with great humility and integrity, that she shares a perspective that it doesn't browbeat. It's just there is a thought, and there are others who may have a better thought, but there's a courageousness with which she shares, but again, a humility. And that for me is encouraging, and hopefully would inspire more of us to give some thought to what we do.
Yeah, right. Speaking of thought, I was thinking, right? Because I listen in a couple shows, certain people bringing up certain things, like, and it's Dwayne, I know you're in the middle of all of this, right? But you gonna have to take it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, man.
So, the LGBTQ plus, right? That's the name of the or whatever. You know what I mean? Some people said it's not enough ganja smokers to really even business about it. Okay? Right? Even business about legalizing it or whatever. Some other people say they don't know how or why they gonna see people go out in the ganja field picking. They believe this like cotton, This not nothing like cotton. It don't grow nothing like what they thinking, And I'm not gonna waste my time and try to explain it to them. And I gotta get to what I gotta say. But another thing too is they believe that they have the all say. You know what I mean? Just through they gonna come and yap on the radio. Mr. Dwayne, it is noticed as a medicine. When you deny somebody the medicine, what you're doing, you're having a big impact on somebody's life. Not true? All right. So back to what I'm going to say, the LGBTQ plus, right? How many of them do you believe is more of them than ganja smokers?
I honestly haven't given that any thought. I mean, statistically, we're told there's a small percentage, but I don't really. What's your thought?
Right. We don't have no proof. Plus, some of them they hide in the closet, right? And ganja smokers too, right?
I mean, looking at just recent reports out of the UK, 50 Labour MPs now been arrested for, just molesting children and all that kind of nastiness. And that's your parliamentarians. I mean, wow.
No, but hold on now. You see what they're talking about? The molesting the children, right? That is in the LGBTQ plus meanings. The Q in that is, if I can say the word queer, right? The word queer means weird. Okay, that's all I mean.
Strange, yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
And then the plus now is all the rest of the stuff, like the tying up in animals and whatever else. That's what that whole name means.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Right. They don't tell you that, right? Okay. So when now you see these type of things that, okay, these people can come in here and have an influence on our children now, like what she talking about yeah, they got influence our children.
Mm-hmm.
To me now, right, you really are trying to sell us out, and you really are trying to fearmonger us into, believing that ganja is as bad as it is. I mean, as bad as she say it is, as they say it is, right? That kind of thing, that's what you call, fear in politics. You're getting what you want done through producing fear, not the truth. The truth is science already come out and say that it is a medicine. There's nothing you can say or do. She can't even go big. Sorry, I keep referring to the lady because she's the only one that is fighting for real, like to keep us back in these gilded ages where we owned by people that are looking out for their own benefits. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that they politically, or they are really trying to cause problems here. They're not going to stand up against the LGBTQ plus, right? They're not going to stand up against that. No, they won't. They won't ever do that. And another thing I got to you, Mr. Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
You know who hates ganja smokers the most? Can you just give me an idea who you think hates us the most?
Who?
Because you remember you hear them say they can't even stand the smell of it. You understand?
Okay.
All right. I just want to ask, who you think out of the groups hate us the most? All kind of groups. Could be anything you want to talk about. Eskimos. Who you think hate us the most?
I don't know, man. You tell me. The church group? I don't know.
That's one, but they're not the first.
Okay.
The first is cocaine addicts and alcoholics.
Okay.
You know what cocaine heads say? They say when they do cocaine, they can go do more work. When you smoke ganja, you're lazy, you don't want to do nothing. So they believe that cocaine is better than ganja. This is why you see cocaine is rampant, like what Rambo say, and I want to big up Rambo too for telling the truth. Cocaine is no business about that. And another thing about cocaine, the price hasn't changed in almost, I think, 70 or 80 years. The price of cocaine has always been at $100 a gram. Always. No matter where you go, it's $100. So that's something like gold, you understand? I mean, sorry, to them. All right. And she talked about what else we got legalized after ganja. No, we couldn't legalize cocaine. We could never legalize that because, number one, that we all know that is dangerous. That is dangerous. If you don't ask me, go dig up that Richard Pryor stand-up show. Make him tell you about when he was on the cocaine. Ask him what happened to him. All he remember is putting the fire on the can and then poof, caught a fire down the road. Everything, all the clothes, everything on fire. You know, ask him on the hospital. They don't know what happened. He said he just blew up. He don't know what happened. That's a joke, but you can tell why it's so much fight against us, right? It's because why you can't they don't have no reason why they fight us. All you gotta say is that the children. But I want to ask them, when they look at them children, you know, out of almost every 25, you're gonna have 10 that will have either a parent or parent that are incarcerated or, you understand, detained or put under some kind of malicious intent, right? To hurt the family. Because of this ganja law, because of these ganja laws. That means, you know, the child don't grow up with idea that is like, you know, I don't trust the police. I don't love the police. Look what the police did to my daddy. Look what the police did to my mother. You understand? And then they go start use ganja. So now, when they was saying now, smoke ganja, what you going to say then? I mean, what you going to say then? Your laws and your fighting against it couldn't save those 10 children. But I'm not even worried that it should never be 10 or none at all. I have to go through that. Just think about it. You on your job, you raising your family. You don't smoke ganja or nothing, you know, but somebody someday just come and say, you got to come take a urine test. And then you deny that urine test from your job. And then you lose your job. And now your children have to suffer because you chose to stand up against some kind of fear-mongering type of tactics. You cannot make these people come up here and spread rumors like this again, Mr. Dwayne, because she can say anything they want to say, you know, but I gotta ask you something, Mr. Dwayne. Right now, if you was to go and get a job in a ganja farm, $100 an hour, you tell me you wouldn't put that mic up? You know, you take that DJ with you. You know, $100 an hour, and all you gotta do is work 3 days a week, and this and that. I'm not saying we gotta do that, you know. I just tell you this is how the market is now, right? We're living good. People trying to live good and happy. If you can't live and see us living good and happy, then what's the purpose of living? What you want downrate me every 5 minutes? I understand. Now, Mr. Dwayne, I hope they understood everything I told them. You know, I don't have the time to explain and talk properly. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, on Caymanian, like, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, but I hope they catch on to what I'm trying to say. The LGBTQ is a big minority towards us and ganja smokers, right? But they got through. They can marry each other. If I wanted to marry a ganja plant, you think they can let me do that?
I think what you're sharing is organization and how we can influence the agenda.
Right. The LGBTQ, they have the right to say they can believe what they want to believe in. If they want to believe they can marry another man or another woman, they can do that. If they want to act furry and funny, they can do that. I can't grow a tree that come from God, the same God that they say is with them. I can't use that to better get wiser and try to hold my my composure during these stressful times. I can't use that. No, I can't use that. So that's the thing now. You see what I'm saying? That's the thing now that I am getting on. I know business about money or what won't smoke it or anything like that. I business about people getting in these problems. Just because these persons got their nose up in the sky, smelling ganja, but they don't. But that nose so way up in the sky that they can't see the little people on the bottom, the real little children on the bottom suffering, and that's the problem I have with it. And if they got a problem with me, I never hear nobody call the radio talking about they want to legalize the LGBTQ thing there, no. I never hear none of that. I never hear no protest. I never hear none of that. I never even see none of that. I call in this thing 10 years, 20 years, and I get nothing crossed, and I get nothing crossed. And I get nothing crossed. That just show you now, they definitely don't like us. And you know why we don't like us? Because we won't bow to the system. We don't need insurance because ganja don't make us get COVID, don't make us get sick. Ganja kills cancer, all these type of things. So if you're in the business of living off of people that are getting sick, you wouldn't want something that will heal them, right? Not true.
Yeah.
So that's the fact. So that we're talking about this referendum, we shouldn't even have that. They should just snap their fingers and make it legal. That's it. Because it's ridiculous how they're going to come up with, oh, you think they go pick ganja in the field? Like this, some cotton farm, this not like that, Mr. Dwayne. This no grow like that. It's a scientific type of thing now. You understand? It takes a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and a lot of time to do this.
Can I, on behalf of one of our listeners, right? And certainly, I think people will understand your consistency and your passion with which, right? But question is asking, is there anything else in the Cayman Islands that is important to you as well? You speak with, an impassioned plea relative to legalizing ganja, but is there anything else that's important to you?
Of course there is, but in not a public beach. Not that important to me. That come and going, like what they say, that come and going with the tides. You know what the most important thing to me other than ganja? Is my health care. When I'm surrounded by poison, alcohol, and tobacco, why would I choose the poison myself? I must be crazy. If ganja don't have no poison, remember, you got to make alcohol from sugar, and you got to make, you got to cut and dry and spray the tobacco with nicotine and all that. The cocaine, you got to use gasoline to make it into the powder. Ganja, you got to plant the seed, watch it grow, water it, and pick it and dry it and smoke it. That's not manufactured. What they're asking, if anything, what trying to say, ganja only on my mind? No. $200 million spent from keeping ganja out of my mind. So, and when that $200 million gone now, people suffering, getting sick, and all them type of things. That is why it's all about passionate about getting the ganja free up.
Yeah, man.
You understand? If you're willing to spend $200 million on a illusion, I can't work with you then. The main thing in me is healthcare.
Yeah, man.
Getting rid of Alzheimer's and arthritis and all that. That's my main thing, is healthcare. Ganja is just a step.
Okay.
Because if I own a ganja farm, I would make my own, I would pay everybody hospital bill. No problem, like bill everything, no problem. And they won't have to say nothing to me about thanks or nothing like that.
All right, man. Hey, always a pleasure, right?
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, man. And thanks again. And as, evidenced by his passion, perhaps a takeaway is, the things that we believe in and champion, sometimes we do it from an informed perspective. We have that will, that courage to move forward, irrespective of how it may be perceived, how we may be maligned or ostracized. And sometimes even when we are not necessarily as informed about something, we see ourselves either promoting or opposing it. The question is there a semblance, not just civility and responsibility, but respectability in how we question and or advocate. Now, Ms. Marla earlier talked about, what's the problem that we're trying to solve, and when we understand, what is it we're trying to do, we manage that thing in a way that's the thing that gets done. So, where are we, and why are we, and how are we? Well, let's make sure that what we're doing, given that this is going to be another important year in our country as we go into an election in particular, well, let's, as voters, become engaged, informed, and let's ensure as we go to the polls that we mark the ballots from that perspective, and let's be prepared going forward after elections to remain involved and hold our elected accountable, as we will, our business sectors, their practices and the like. Now, the last day to register to vote is today, so please, if you're going to be 18 on or before April the 30th, you're not yet 18, but your birthday is going to be April the 30th or earlier, you're still eligible to get registered to vote, obviously if you meet the criteria. So please get registered today and get on the ballot as a candidate if you're contesting a seat or nomination the end of the 3rd of March. But please get registered to vote if you're eligible. All right. Tomorrow, we want you to join us. We're going to have initial discussion with our friends over at CNB, I think is what it's on to say. And then 1 o'clock, Dr. Frank McField will be your guest. Have a wonderful afternoon. Be safe, be considerate on our roads, and get there safely. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital, peace of mind is important when life happens.